Gandalf, the Grey Wizard, is a household name in Middle-earth. He is not only a wise wizard, but also a leader who, in critical moments, rallied the people of Middle-earth to resist evil forces. His story is steeped in history, and his fame has spread far and wide. However, though we all know the name of this wizard, do you really know the extraordinary deeds he accomplished in Middle-earth? Today, we'll take you through Gandalf's heroic achievements in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, step by step uncovering what makes the Grey Wizard so powerful. Why was he able to return from the dead at a crucial moment, not only resurrected but with greater strength, ready to rejoin the battlefield and continue the fight? Gandalf, originally named Olorin, was one of the Maiar, the lower order divine spirits of Arda, serving the higher Valar gods, such as Manwë and Ulmo, from the beginning of creation. Known for his kindness and wisdom, Olorin was especially adept at relating to the elves. Drawn to Middle-earth by its growing unrest, he accepted the mission from the Valar, joining the ranks of the Astari, the 5 wizards who came to Middle-earth to counter the impending resurgence of the dark power Sauron. In Middle-earth, Olorin took the name Gandalf, and as the Grey Wizard, traveled among elves, men, and dwarves. Unlike some of the other wizards, such as the proud Saruman, Gandalf earned widespread trust and respect through his humility, wisdom, and selfless dedication. In fact, Gandalf's very presence and noble character were among the factors that contributed to Saruman's fall into darkness. In the future, we will create a special video exploring how Saruman, once a white wizard, transformed into an ally of the dark forces. Gandalf's actions in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings made him MVP of sorts. His assistance enabled elves, dwarves, and men to defeat Sauron's armies and save Middle-earth. His charisma and leadership qualities shine through in both the novels and the films. Gandalf's sense of responsibility and leadership sharply contrasts with Saruman's, and this is one reason why his allies, whether human, elf, dwarf, or even hobbit, hold him in such high esteem. Among the 5 Valars and wizards, Gandalf is the only one who remained true to his mission, performing his duty with unwavering dedication. As a result, at the end of the story, he was granted the honor of journeying with the elves to the blessed lands of Valinor, where he would find eternal peace. So, why is Gandalf held in such high regard? What makes his wisdom and strength so exceptional? Why did he become a key figure in the fight against darkness, ultimately replacing the fallen Saruman as the White Wizard and continuing to lead Middle-earth's people against evil? Was it merely due to Saruman's failure that he was chosen by the divine powers? Today, let us delve into the life of one of the most legendary wizards of the fantasy world and uncover the truths behind his extraordinary life. In the distant land of Middle-earth, an ancient legend circulates about the wizards. These wizards may appear to be mysterious old men dressed in robes and carrying staffs, but in truth, they hold a unique identity. They are Maiar. The Maiar are lower-order divine spirits beneath the Valar, beings of lesser power yet endowed with extraordinary wisdom and strength. The Maiar were assigned a sacred duty to guide the elves and men of Middle-earth in their struggle against darkness, particularly to thwart the evil schemes of the Dark Lord Sauron. But how did this struggle begin? In the middle of the Second Age, Sauron forged the One Ring, a ring that could control all other rings of power. Should it fall into Sauron's hands, he would have the power to enslave all races. The Valar were deeply concerned, but due to various restrictions, they could not intervene directly. Instead, they gathered the Mire, asking if any volunteers would accept the risky mission of journeying to the eastern lands of Middle-earth to confront Sauron. However, the terms were strict. The Mire would have to relinquish most of their divine powers, retaining only minimal abilities for self-defense, and would walk the world in mortal form. They could not destroy Sauron directly, nor could they misuse their power. Their mission was to guide and protect the peoples of Middle-earth, inspiring them to resist together. In the face of such a heavy burden, the Mire remained silent one by one. After all, the task was daunting, and none wished to give up their powers or risk entering the mortal world. However, at that moment, a confident Maya stepped forward, patting his chest boldly and proclaiming, "I, Saruman, will take on this task." As a learned Maya, Saruman felt destined for the mission, believing himself the best candidate. He even cast a slight look of disdain toward his hesitant peers, convinced that he was the true hero. Yet, the story does not end there. Just as Saruman was proudly basking in his acceptance of the mission, another Maya was summoned to the hall. This Maya was a modest, gentle spirit named Olorin, who would later become known as Gandalf. Though wise, Gandalf felt he was not powerful enough for such a responsibility. Humbly, he told Manwë, the chief of the Valar, "I am too weak. I fear I may not be up to the task. I fear Sauron and the endless darkness." Manwë, however, looked at Gandalf, smiled slightly, saying with quiet determination, "Precisely because you know fear, you are better suited for this mission. Your compassion and willingness to hear the sorrows of the world are why I chose you." Although gentle, Manwë's words carried a sense of unyielding resolve. Manwë's choice sparked jealousy in Saruman. In his eyes, Gandalf was nothing but a timid little wizard, while he, Saruman, was the most suited for the mission. Yet, the favor shown by Manwë, along with the promise of the Queen of Stars, Varda, to Gandalf, stirred discontent in Saruman's heart, a seed that would take root, grow, and eventually lead him toward darkness. In truth, there was reason behind Manwë and Varda's choice of Gandalf. Gandalf was indeed unique in many ways. He had been a student of Nienna, the goddess of sorrow, and learned from her how to feel the sufferings of mortal beings, especially the grief of the elves. Gandalf was not merely a symbol of wisdom and strength. He was a figure of gentleness and compassion. He knew how to listen and comfort, setting aside divine pride to understand the pain and struggles of mortals. Rather than flaunting his might, he preferred to walk humbly and sincerely alongside the people of Middle-earth. Upon arriving in Middle-earth, Gandalf took on the guise of the Grey Wizard, traveling far and wide. He befriended elves, dwarves, and men, facing countless challenges and crises with them. Although he never considered himself as powerful as the other wizards, it was his humility, wisdom, and sincerity that won him respect and trust from all races. In contrast, Saruman's pride and growing desire for power led him astray, causing him to abandon his original mission and fall into darkness. Gandalf's deeds in The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings were nothing short of legendary. Whether it was encouraging the timid Bilbo to join the adventure, or leading the Fellowship of the Ring through perilous paths, Gandalf consistently guided and protected his friends. When he fought the Balrog to protect the group and sacrificed himself, all mourned his loss. Yet, fate did not leave him in silence. Gandalf's selflessness and bravery moved the Valar, and he was resurrected, returning as the White Wizard, now with an even greater mission. Gandalf's life was filled with endless challenges, yet he never wavered. His legacy in Middle-earth is not only one of victory over evil, but also a beacon of hope and inspiration. His humility, courage, and wisdom established him as a legendary figure, an undying hero in the hearts of the people of Middle-earth. The five wizards left the land of the gods and embarked on a long journey to Middle-earth, with Gandalf being the last to arrive. On his arrival, he was met by Círdan the Telleran elf, a guardian with a profound gaze and a meticulous mind. Círdan seemed to recognize Gandalf's unique qualities at a glance. Despite his humble appearance, even tinged with shyness, he possessed extraordinary wisdom and steadfast strength deep within. After some thought, Círdan handed Gandalf the Ring of Fire, a precious treasure he had kept for years. This ring symbolized endless courage and warmth, and Círdan believed that Gandalf would use it to ignite a light of hope, bringing warmth to the cold, shadowed lands of Middle-earth. "This is my gift to you. May it aid you in your quest," Círdan said with a gentle smile. "The roads of Middle-earth are treacherous, and this ring will help you ward off weariness and solitude." Gandalf received the Ring of Fire with reverence, gazing at it for a moment as emotions swirled within him. Although the future lay shrouded in uncertainty, he felt the silent support of Círdan and the elves at that moment. Perhaps it was this trust that gave him more resolve as he embarked on his journey through Middle-earth. Around the year 1000 of the Third Age, Gandalf began his life as a wanderer in earnest. He did not see himself as a lofty wizard, but rather as a humble traveler, stepping lightly onto this land of unknowns and possibilities. His humility and sincerity earned him the respect and trust of the various races of Middle-earth. The elves called him Mithrandir, meaning Grey Pilgrim or Grey Saint, a title that honored his wisdom and gentleness. The northern humans, on the other hand, called him simply Gandalf, meaning Elf of the Staff. As he passed through villages, children would gather curiously around him, gazing at his pointed blue-gray hat, his silver-gray robes that shimmered with an elven aura, and his long gray-white beard. Gandalf was always accompanied by his staff, which became a symbol of his journey across Middle-earth. He was particularly fond of the Shire. The peaceful land and its simple, good-hearted hobbits always brought him warmth and tranquility. The hobbits might not have been mighty warriors or possessed grand achievements, but their kindness, humor, and simple lives brought Gandalf a sense of kinship, perhaps because he saw in them a life he himself yearned for, one that was ordinary, yet fulfilling. He enjoyed sitting in the cozy homes of the Shire, sharing tobacco and small sips of ale with the hobbits, recounting tales of distant lands and occasionally evoking laughter among the children. In contrast, the imposing walls of Gondor and its atmosphere of power made him feel less at ease. Gandalf had no interest in authority or control, and while Gondor's majesty commanded respect, it also bore a certain coldness that was uncomfortable for him. Even so, he viewed Gondor as a vital ally, fully aware that its strength was indispensable in the fight against the dark forces. Gandalf formed a close friendship with Elrond, the Lord of Rivendell, and developed strong bonds with the Rangers of the North. Through these travels, he forged deep friendships with humans, elves, and dwarves alike, relationships that became a powerful source of support in his battle against darkness. Each night, Gandalf would stand on the plains, gazing at the starlit sky, silently reflecting on his fate. He knew that his destiny was intertwined with the survival of Middle-earth. No matter the hardships, he would stand alongside the people of this land to face the unknown future together. Thus, Gandalf the Grey roamed Middle-earth, acting as a quiet yet resolute protector. His strength lay in his humility, selflessness, and wisdom. Like the ring of fire he bore, he emitted a gentle yet warm light in the darkness, guiding the people of Middle-earth through their journey. In Middle-earth, the differences between Saruman and Gandalf were evident. Saruman sought knowledge and power, believing that only the strong could control fate. He was convinced that wisdom and strength were tools to govern and reshape the world, even if it meant walking a lonely and ambitious path. Gandalf, on the other hand, held a completely different belief. His faith stemmed from a simple yet unyielding conviction that what truly warded off darkness was not the depths of knowledge or the heights of power, but rather the small and warm acts of kindness, the union of sincerity, bravery, and compassion. Gandalf journeyed among elves, dwarves, hobbits, and men, never making grand declarations, but instead quietly empowering those who were often overlooked. In them, he saw countless ordinary forms of beauty, the tenderness of a mother to her child, laughter between friends, and the hobbit's love for their land. He believed that true strength lay in the genuine and selfless acts of people's hearts, rather than in cold knowledge or absolute power. During his early travels, Gandalf often paused on the outskirts of the countryside, watching villagers till the fields or hobbits gather around fireplaces to share family tales. He delighted in these warm, simple stories because he knew that these seemingly trivial moments were, in fact, the true power against the darkness. Often, deep in the night, Gandalf would ponder the meaning of weakness. He understood that while many of the beings in Middle-earth were not powerful in strength, they possessed pure hearts that could still find hope even in the shadow. This was the light in which he believed. Perhaps because of this belief, Gandalf did not place his hopes in the powerful men or elves, but in the least expected hobbits. Amid questioning glances, Gandalf smiled serenely, knowing that even though the hobbits' small frames hid within the grass, their courage could shake destiny itself. He understood that darkness would not tremble before the lights in high towers, but would be unsettled by the smallest, seemingly insignificant glimmer. In every turbulent age, People questioned Gandalf's choices, and at times, even he felt a flicker of doubt. After all, placing his faith in these humble beings was, in many ways, a gamble. Yet Gandalf never forgot those gentle moments. He thought of the kind-hearted hobbits in the Shire, who, though they harbored no grand ambitions, possessed qualities more precious than gold: their kindness, their bravery. If there is no source of light, then no amount of strength can resist the darkness, Gandalf told himself. He knew that knowledge and power were merely tools, and what truly led people toward the light was the love and trust in their hearts. Thus, as a guardian, he lingered on the edges of darkness, like a gentle flame, forever standing by the weak beings he trusted. When the ultimate test arrived, Gandalf stood silently behind the hobbits, filled with unwavering confidence. He knew that, in the end, darkness would be vanquished by the least noticeable glimmer on this land, a light born not from the lust for power or control, but from a pure desire to protect its world. In the Third Age, year 1050, a disturbing dark presence emerged in the southern reaches of Mirkwood. This once vibrant forest became shrouded in an invisible fear, and the elves gradually retreated north, sensing a dark power awakening there. At that time, elves and men might have thought it was simply another malevolent creature stirring up trouble, but Gandalf thought otherwise. His intuition told him there was a deeper secret behind this power. Gandalf recalled the decisive battle from 1,000 years prior, when men and elves had united to defeat Sauron. Isildur, wielding the broken sword, had cut off the finger on which Sauron wore the One Ring, thus vanquishing him and causing his darkness to fade. However, Gandalf knew that a being like Sauron would not easily be extinguished. Perhaps it was time to unravel this 1,000-year-old mystery. In the year 2063 of the Third Age, Gandalf finally ventured to that shadowed land himself. Cloaked in grey and carrying his staff, he stepped into Dol Guldur, the place of shadows. He remained vigilant at every step, as the surrounding darkness seemed to suffuse the air with a stifling heaviness. Eventually, he discovered a necromancer lurking there, a mysterious figure emanating a powerful dark energy. Gandalf confronted him and managed to drive him away, yet he could not fully unveil the necromancer's true identity. Despite his suspicions, Gandalf grew increasingly certain that this was Sauron's place of resurrection. Time flowed on, and Gandalf's suspicions gradually proved true. 400 years later, the dark necromancer returned to Dol Guldur, stronger than ever. This time, his power was even greater, and the fear he spread reached deeply into the hearts of many. The great figures of the Western lands could no longer ignore the threat and were filled with apprehension. Galadriel, the wise and powerful elven queen, also sensed this dark anomaly. She decided to convene an unprecedented council, the White Council, to discuss how to address this impending disaster. In 2463, the White Council convened in Rivendell's grand halls, gathering the wisest and most powerful figures of the Western lands, including Elrond, Círdan, Saruman, and Gandalf. Galadriel stood at the center of the meeting, her gaze sweeping over every wizard, elf, and lord present, finally resting on Gandalf. She knew better than anyone the extraordinary qualities of Gandalf. Not only did he possess profound wisdom and great power, but he was also different in his humility, always approachable, and able to build deep trust with everyone. This made him a natural leader. With a gentle smile and a hint of encouragement and expectation in her eyes, Galadriel proposed to the assembly, "I believe Gandalf is the most suitable choice for the council's leader." As her words fell, the others nodded in agreement. Even Saruman, though harboring envy toward Gandalf's position, could not deny his wisdom and decisiveness. However, Gandalf surprised everyone by shaking his head. His eyes held a warm smile, yet with a resolute firmness. He gently said, "I am grateful for your trust, but the role of leader is not for me." He paused, his gaze deep as he looked out toward the verdant woods beyond the window, his tone carrying a trace of longing. "I would rather roam freely across this land, protecting the ordinary and kind-hearted souls, rather than be bound by authority and duties." There was a silence in the hall, as everyone was moved by Gandalf's words. He was so different from those who chased after power. For him, the most important thing was always his sincere guardianship of this land and its beings, not control or rule. This inadvertently contrasted sharply with Saruman's growing ambition. The White Council was ultimately formed, with Saruman elected as its leader. However, Gandalf's refusal did not mean he removed himself from the matter. He continued to quietly guard the north of Middle-earth, traversing between darkness and light, focusing on those who seemed insignificant. He knew that true strength lay not in high command, but in every life willing to fight for the light. Thus, Gandalf, carrying the Ring of Fire and his beliefs, continued his journey across Middle-earth, igniting hope for elves, men, dwarves, and even the most unassuming of hobbits. In the year 2845 of the Third Age, King Thrain II of the Kingdom Under the Mountain suddenly disappeared. He had set out from the Blue Mountains with his cherished dwarven ring and a dream to rebuild his homeland, intending to go to the Lonely Mountain. However, he never arrived, as if swallowed by shadows, leaving no trace. When the news reached him, Gandalf felt a twinge of unease. Thrain II was not someone who would vanish easily, nor should the power of the dwarven ring lead him astray. All of this seemed peculiar, stirring Gandalf's concern. Thus Gandalf crossed the mountains and arrived in Khazad-dûm, hoping to learn of Thrain II's whereabouts. Days turned to weeks with no useful leads. Gandalf traversed every dwarven gathering place but found nothing. The mystery of the disappearance weighed on his heart like a fog, unsettling him. Time passed swiftly. It was not until 5 years later, in 2850, that Gandalf finally found a weakened Thrain II in the shadows of Dol Guldur. Emaciated, his former regal bearing lost, Thrain's eyes held only pain and despair. Gently, Gandalf helped him up, attempting to comfort the tormented Dwarf King. But as Gandalf noticed Thrain's fingers, he inhaled sharply. The dwarven ring was gone. In a faint voice, Thrain recounted what had happened, mentioning the shadow and the necromancer, filling Gandalf with a growing sense of dread. Could this necromancer indeed be Sauron reborn? He quickly returned west with news of Thrain II's discovery, and convene the White Council to share this alarming revelation. Gandalf earnestly proposed that they immediately unite to launch an attack on Dol Guldur and root out the necromancer, preventing the resurgence of the forces of darkness. However, Saruman, sitting in the leader's chair, remained silent for a long time before slowly shaking his head and rejecting the proposal. His tone was cool as he said, "Now is not the right time." Acting rashly might disturb the peace of all Middle-earth. His words were reasonable, yet Gandalf detected a strange desire in Saruman's eyes. It was as if Saruman had begun to scheme something, an unspoken greed for the One Ring. After the meeting, Gandalf sat alone in a corridor corner, lighting his pipe and smoking quietly. He said nothing more, and his face betrayed no extra expression, only a hint of unspoken weight in his eyes. Deep down, Gandalf understood that Saruman was no longer simply the wizard who fought solely for the light. He began to suspect that Saruman had already been captivated by the One Ring's power, and that his reluctance to assault Dol Guldur was perhaps to secretly search for the ring himself. Gandalf knew that Saruman was the council's leader, and however discontent he might feel, he had no authority to act independently. But as he saw the darkness creeping ever closer, and felt Sauron's aura sweeping across Middle-earth again, Gandalf's concerns grew heavier. He knew that if action wasn't taken soon, Sauron would rise again, and the distant, peaceful Shire, one of Gandalf's most cherished places, might also be swallowed by darkness. Thus Gandalf made a silent vow. Even if he were to stand alone, he would protect every inch of Middle-earth and defend those ordinary yet beautiful lives, no matter how long and arduous the battle might be. In the Third Age, dark clouds once again overshadow Middle-earth. Gandalf has drawn an unsettling conclusion from a series of signs. Sauron, the Dark Lord, who once nearly destroyed the entire world, is quietly returning. His dark forces are once again stirring, and Gandalf knows that this time, if action is not taken in time, Middle-earth will once again be plunged into terrifying war. What worries Gandalf the most is Sauron's ambition. Not only does he seek to regain the One Ring, but he may also ally with the dragon Smaug to control the northern mountains and put the fate of all Middle-earth in his hands. The Lonely Mountain, once the glorious home of the Dwarven Kingdom, is now occupied by Smaug, becoming an insurmountable obstacle. At this point, Gandalf is filled with anxiety. He is concerned not only about Sauron's power, but also about how to deal with the rampaging dragon. To calm himself, he decides to leave for a while, escaping the turmoil of the war, and head to a place he has not visited in a long time, the Shire. Soon, Gandalf encounters an unexpected ally at the Bridge of Bree, Thorin Oakenshield, Dwarven prince who is planning to reclaim the Lonely Mountain and restore the kingdom beneath. This goal aligns perfectly with Gandalf's plan, and they discuss a common task: to defeat Smaug, reclaim the Lonely Mountain, and recover its treasure. During this adventure, the Hobbit Bilbo Baggins also becomes involved, and Gandalf nearly forces him to join the Dwarven Company. Gandalf knows that although Bilbo is an unremarkable hobbit, the ring in his possession might be the key to preventing all disaster. The expedition begins, and Gandalf's true value starts to emerge, not only as a powerful wizard, but also as a symbol of wisdom and courage. Throughout the arduous journey, he saves the members of the group multiple times. When the dwarves and Bilbo are trapped by 3 trolls, Gandalf cleverly uses the power of sunlight to turn the trolls to stone and rescue the group. He also finds his own weapon, the sword Glamdring among the trolls' lair, greatly enhancing his combat abilities. In the Misty Mountains, when the group is surrounded by a fierce group of orcs, Gandalf steps forward. He slays the Orc King with a single blow, causing the remaining orcs to flee in terror. Later, when they are surrounded by wargs, Gandalf hesitates not for a moment. Drawing strength from the flames, he sets fire to pine cones hanging from the trees and launches a fierce attack on the enemies. Without Gandalf's timely intervention, Bilbo and the dwarves' expedition to the Lonely Mountain would likely have fallen into the hands of the enemy, with no chance to retaliate. However, the adventure is far from over. Gandalf realizes that the battle for the Lonely Mountain is about to reach a new climax. He must return to the White Council to reorganize their forces and face the increasingly dire situation. 90 years ago, he had proposed directly attacking Dol Guldur to weaken Sauron's power, but Saruman's obstruction prevented this strategy from being carried out. Finally this year, Saruman agrees to the plan, but when they march to battle, Sauron is already aware and quietly retreats, secretly returning to Mordor. Gandalf does not despair, though. He immediately learns that the situation at the Lonely Mountain has escalated. There is an intense conflict between humans, elves, and dwarves. The 2 armies are on the brink of war, their arrows drawn, and battle is about to break out. As the situation grows more tense, Gandalf does not hesitate to rush between the 2 armies alone. He shouts, "Cease fire," and his staff flashes with dazzling white light, cutting through the darkness like lightning. With an unparalleled majesty, warning everyone, the enemy's threat is more terrifying than your quarrels. Gandalf's appearance is like a ray of hope, stopping the impending civil war. His thunderous roar and powerful magic temporarily halt the escalating tension. However, Gandalf knows that this is only temporary. He leads the united forces, and ultimately, the battle of 5 armies unfolds, the final confrontation between the dwarves, elves, and men against the orcs and wargs. Without Gandalf's timely intervention to unite the 3 factions and prevent them from slaughtering each other, the situation in the north would have already descended into chaos. Without Gandalf's interference, Sauron might have seized the opportunity to control the entire north and even suppress the south, plunging all of Middle-earth into darkness. And it is through this intense battle that Gandalf's greatness once again shines. Though he seems to be a background figure, acting with humility as a gray-clad wizard, he has always been the key to the fate of Middle-earth. His wisdom and courage, his care and compassion for all races, make him one of the most indispensable heroes in the history of Middle-earth. In the year 2951 of the Third Age, under the grim skies of Mordor, the shadow of Sauron reappeared. Having remained hidden for many years, he finally began to rebuild the Dark Tower of Barad-dûr, a symbol of evil, and the dark cloud began to spread over all of Middle-earth. 2 years later, the White Council convened again, but trust within its ranks had already fractured. Saruman, the leader of the White Wizards, secretly sought to conceal the truth, pretending to continue searching for the One Ring, while in fact he had already been tempted by the power of the ring and turned to darkness. In the face of this hidden crisis, in 2056, Gandalf encountered the young ranger. At that time, Aragorn had just begun his life as a ranger, already showing unparalleled courage and wisdom as he braved the wilderness. Gandalf keenly sensed Aragorn's potential, and they quickly became close allies. Over the following days, with Aragorn's help, Gandalf began secretly protecting the Shire, the peaceful land far from the world's troubles, where Bilbo and other hobbits lived. Gandalf kept a close watch on everything, especially Bilbo. He knew Bilbo's nature, a love of peace and simple living. But ever since Bilbo took the ring from Gollum, he seemed to have changed, no longer as carefree as before. Bilbo's obsession with the ring grew deeper, to the point of near obsession. His eyes often gleamed with a strange light, as though the ring had consumed him. Gandalf recalled how Bilbo had taken the ring from Gollum, a seemingly accidental act that, at the time, seemed inconsequential but now appeared to have bound Bilbo to the ring inextricably. The mind of the Grey Wizard raced. Gandalf was no mere wandering wizard. His keen insight and wisdom quickly connected the dots. He suspected that this ring was no ordinary treasure, but one of the rings of power created by Sauron. He remembered his earlier suspicion of Dol Guldur, where he believed the Dark Sorcerer was Sauron himself. The strange behavior of Bilbo now confirmed to him that the ring was connected to the Dark Lord. Suspicious, Gandalf decided to seek the truth. He began to see a hidden danger within Bilbo. He knew that he had to confirm his suspicions, and that this decision would mark the beginning of a legendary struggle between hope and destruction. In 3001 of the Third Age, amidst the laughter and celebrations of the Shire, Bilbo held an unprecedented grand farewell party. The entire Shire was filled with the unique joy of hobbits, carefree and full of life. Everyone thought it was just another of Bilbo's unexpected adventures, but Gandalf sensed a deeper meaning. He knew that Bilbo's obsession with the ring had grown uncontrollable, and the influence of the ring over Bilbo had deepened to the point that he could no longer easily rid himself of it. After the party, Gandalf found Bilbo and patiently urged him to part with the ring. It was not easy. Bilbo's hands trembled as he gripped the ring, unwilling to let go, as though the small golden band had fused with his soul. Gandalf gazed at him quietly, his eyes full of understanding yet unwavering. His voice was deep and powerful. "Bilbo, you have traveled a long journey and seen the vastness of the world, but now it is time to let go." Finally, under Gandalf's guidance, Bilbo reluctantly handed the ring over to his nephew Frodo. Gandalf looked at the ring in Frodo's hand, knowing that this seemingly ordinary object was awakening the forces of darkness. He warned Frodo not to use the ring lightly, for it was no ordinary object. It was the embodiment of evil, capable of destroying everything. In the following days, Gandalf began a more thorough investigation. He asked Aragorn, the ranger he trusted above all others, to search for the former owner of the ring, Gollum, a creature twisted and enslaved by the ring. Meanwhile, Gandalf himself did not rest, traveling to the ancient library of Gondor to study all he could find about the ring, hoping to uncover its true nature. As the years passed, Gandalf and Aragorn each followed different paths, piecing together the fragments of the dark conspiracy. 16 years later, Aragorn finally captured Gollum in the wilderness. Gandalf met him, and as he looked at the wretched creature who had been consumed by the ring, he couldn't help but feel pity. Though Gollum was gaunt and shriveled, his eyes burned with a maddened light whenever he spoke of the ring. His twisted love and fear of it filled Gandalf with a deep unease. Gandalf compared Gollum's descriptions with the data he had collected over the years, and slowly the mystery began to unravel. The ring was none other than the long-lost One Ring. His heart sank as he realized that the ring Bilbo had found was indeed Sauron's terrible weapon. The power of the ring was overwhelmingly evil, and it could drag its bearer into the abyss. Gandalf knew that if Sauron regained the ring, all hope for Middle-earth would be lost. Returning to the Shire, Gandalf revealed his findings to Frodo, warning him of the ring's danger. In this peaceful hobbit village, a great shadow had already descended. From this moment on, Gandalf and Frodo both understood that their mission was tied to the fate of all Middle-earth, and an unprecedented adventure and battle were about to unfold. In April of 3018 of the Third Age, on a spring day clouded with foreboding, Gandalf hurried back to the Shire. He had traveled through mountains and valleys, his mind filled with unease. His suspicions had become clearer. The small ring was not just a relic, but the One Ring, the source of Sauron's evil power. When he met Frodo, without a word, he instructed him to throw the ring into the fire. As the flames danced, ancient inscriptions appeared on the surface of the ring, confirming Gandalf's theory. The One Ring was hiding in the quiet corner of the Shire. Frodo felt a chill as the ring awakened in the firelight. But Gandalf's words chilled him even more. The Dark Lord has learned of the Shire and the Baggins name through Gollum. Soon, terrible creatures will come looking for it. The news hit Frodo like a thunderclap, and his fear quickly turned to anger. That creature, Gollum, he cursed the one who had brought this danger. Gandalf understood Frodo's anger, but he did not let emotions cloud his judgment. He took a deep breath and spoke in a calm but firm voice. I know your anger, but Gollum is not wholly evil. His heart has been corrupted by the ring, and he is a mirror of the ring's dark power. I believe he will play an unexpected role in the battle between light and darkness. Frodo listened, still angry, but gradually soothed by Gandalf's wisdom and rationality. Following Gandalf's advice, Frodo understood his responsibility and ultimately decided to leave his home and take the ring into hiding. Together with 3 loyal hobbit companions, he set out on a journey. Gandalf guided them toward Bree, where they would meet Aragorn, a brave ranger who would help them evade the ring wraiths and escort them to Rivendell. Meanwhile, Gandalf himself took action. He left the Shire and traveled south, gathering information about Sauron's movements. Along the way, he learned that the Dark Lord's forces were attacking Osgiliath, and Gondor was falling back, making the fate of Middle-earth increasingly dire. He received word from Radagast the Brown, urging him to meet Saruman, who had news of the 9 ring wraiths searching for the One Ring. In this desperate situation, Gandalf chose to trust Saruman, hoping the powerful white wizard could offer aid. However, When he arrived at Orthanc, he was met with betrayal. Saruman openly declared his allegiance to Sauron, attempting to persuade Gandalf to join the Dark Lord. Gandalf, unmoved by Saruman's threats and temptations, coldly rejected his offer. Seeing that Gandalf's resolve was unshakable, Saruman imprisoned him at the top of Orthanc, trying to sever his connection with the outside world. High atop the tower, Gandalf was surrounded by wind and rain, as though the fate of Middle-earth itself was trapped in darkness. Yet, the Grey Wizard did not lose hope. Using his wisdom, he managed to communicate with the outside world. Soon, a great shadow appeared in the sky. Gwaihir, the Eagle King, came to his rescue, carrying Gandalf out of Orthanc's grasp. Freed, Gandalf did not rest. He tracked the movements of the ringwraiths, knowing time was running out and the enemy could find Frodo at any moment. He pressed forward and finally arrived at Weathertop, where he left a signal to guide Aragorn and the others toward Rivendell. In this battle between light and dark, Gandalf knew that he was but one warrior among many, but he would not falter for the future of Middle-earth. He would fight until the end. As night fell, dark clouds gathered, and the summit of Weathertop was shrouded in deep shadow. Gandalf stood at the peak, staff in hand, coldly watching as the ringwraiths approached. Cloaked in black, they seemed to be embodiments of darkness itself, circling him with an air of death. But Gandalf stood firm, calling upon the power of the flame of Anor, his staff glowing like a beacon of light against the encroaching darkness. The wraiths recoiled from the flame's power, momentarily halted in their pursuit. Gandalf knew this moment would not last. Time was fleeting, and Frodo's fate was tied to his actions. His heart beat rapidly as he thought of the path that lay ahead. For the first time in his life, Gandalf, the Grey Wizard, realized the true burden of his task. He was more than just a guide. He was the last hope of Middle-earth. Gandalf's story, like an epic of Middle-earth, is filled with courage, wisdom, and selfless devotion. He wasn't a hero in everyone's eyes from the beginning, yet his greatness gradually revealed itself. In every battle, and with every choice, he fought for the light of Middle-earth with extraordinary wisdom and unwavering faith. From his journey, we can see a profound truth, that true strength doesn't come merely from powerful magic or physical might, but from a fearless spirit and a determination to walk the right path. Looking back to the beginning, Gandalf's identity wasn't known by everyone. Many of Middle-earth's inhabitants mistook him for an elf because of his transcendent aura and mysterious abilities, which had already earned him a place in the hearts of all races. However, Gandalf's greatness was not due to his ethereal appearance or the mystery others saw in him. His greatness stemmed from his humanity, the unshakable kindness and conviction rooted in his love for all that was good in Middle-earth. His contrast with Saruman is especially stark. Both were Mire sent to Middle-earth by Valinor, carrying the same sacred mission, yet they chose completely different paths. Saruman was proud and arrogant, believing himself to be the savior and destined ruler of Middle-earth. He viewed himself as a godlike being, unwilling to connect with ordinary mortals or truly establish bonds with Middle-earth's races. In contrast, Gandalf never looked down on others. He formed deep friendships with elves, dwarves, and even ordinary farmers and merchants. No matter who his enemies were, he always treated every ally with equality, constantly remembering his responsibilities. In terms of power, Gandalf wasn't the strongest. Saruman possessed greater magical ability, but he chose to fall when it mattered most. Gandalf didn't rely on extraordinary power, but on his unyielding will and fearless heart. Facing the oppression of dark forces, Gandalf persisted in resisting. His strength came from his faith in light and goodness. Even in the darkest moments, he never lost hope. Meanwhile, though Saruman wielded greater power, he had long been corrupted by his desire for dominance, abandoning his original responsibilities and mission. Gandalf's strength also lay in his unconditional trust and support for everyone. During those dark years, when others felt despair, Gandalf always stepped forward and firmly told them, "Do not give up. As long as we hold hope in our hearts, darkness will ultimately retreat." He knew that to fight against darkness, he couldn't rely solely on his own strength. He needed everyone, even the smallest lives. He deeply understood the strength of each ally and skillfully encouraged them to step up and fight for the light in the toughest times. Because of this, he earned countless loyalty and admiration. Most critically, Gandalf never abandoned his mission, even in the face of endless darkness and danger. He walked this path without complaint or regret until the very end. Even when he knew the path ahead was filled with unknown fears, he remained steadfast in his duty. When he and the Balrog perished together, even then, his spirit did not rest, and only when the Supreme God granted him new power did he resurrect and continue his mission as the White Wizard. He not only guided Middle-earth's races with wisdom and strength to unite against Sauron, but he was also always at the front lines of every battle, inspiring his comrades and protecting the weak. When all seemed lost, Gandalf always showed everyone a glimmer of hope. For this reason, he was more than just a wizard. He was a true leader. His strength was not simply shown in battle, but in his boundless courage and unwavering conviction. He understood that a true hero is not just one with great power, but someone who stands firm in their beliefs, unafraid of darkness, and moves forward with bravery. The reason Gandalf was able to replace Saruman and become the true leader of Middle-earth was not because he was stronger, but because he never abandoned any of his companions. No matter how difficult the moment, he stood on the front lines, inspiring everyone who was trapped in despair with his presence. His power came from the trust of each person, and this trust was built upon his selfless dedication and indomitable spirit. When the darkness in Middle-earth was finally dispelled, Gandalf still did not choose to revel in victory. He continued fulfilling his divine mission until, in the end, he returned to Valinor with all his comrades who had fought. As the last wizard to return, Gandalf was not only the only one to fully accomplish his mission, but also a symbol of hope and light. His story has been passed down in Middle-earth for millennia, becoming an everlasting beacon in everyone's hearts. Thank you for listening. Good night, my sleepy tiger. Have a sweet dreams.